Well, it's been a while since I've made a video, and I apologize for that. I've been kind of in a battle with the local Division of Wildlife in Utah over public access to public water. In the state of Utah, we have most of our good carp water is actually not allowed to be fished. And the regulations they use is for protected wildlife, even though carp in Utah are not protected. And so a ton of our water right now is completely locked to us and we can't fish it. And the whole process has somewhat demotivated me from making videos. Anyway, that's an ongoing fight, but I did get out to one of the few areas in our state that still allows carp fishing around the Great Salt Lake. Most of it now we can't fish. And it was awesome. Love this area, one of my favorite spots. It's just unfortunate there's so little anymore that we actually have access to. So you're going to see a lot of fish here, kind of in the pre-spawn mode, big pods moving through like this. A lot of, our typical techniques, drag and drop. These guys are real aggressive pre-spawn, so they are somewhat forgiving of, I casted these guys a couple of times. They split off and I was still able to get an eat here, even though very obviously these fish had seen me, seen the fly. But sometimes when they're aggressive this early in the season, it can be the best and easiest fishing of the year. Especially in a place like this where, they get hit pretty hard in the summer by bow fishermen. This is probably the most popular area in my state for the bow fishermen. One of the few areas in this around the lake that still allows fly fishing. So they get really spooky once the bow fishermen arrive. But early in the year, typically the bow fishermen aren't out there. Or if they are, they're not very good at finding carp. So they're out cruising around in areas that don't have a lot of carp. So it can be pretty sweet. Not a lot of tailors. Most of these guys are cruising. Cruisers, I've said before, are some of my favorite fish to target, but they can be pretty hard. You really got to kind of time it. You see the eat there where that one eats the fly. But it was cruising in at a pretty good speed, and you got to make sure that fly intercepts them on the move. And you'll see that in a lot of these videos where that's really been what I've been doing. That's the presentation I'm using to try and get these guys to eat. Again, not very many tailors, mostly just cruisers, but really great day. And I'm glad that I still can fish this area. Still irritated that so much of our other water is locked to us. And again, yeah, that's why you haven't seen a lot of content from me lately. It's been, like I said, pretty demotivating. It's a big pot of fish coming in right here. Actually, that wasn't the fish. Yeah. So big female separate right here. You can still see this isn't a cruiser. This isn't a tailor. This is just a cruiser kind of sneaking by on the far side here. That was a big pod to the left of me there. I put it in front of them and they ignored it. They kept coming right at me, but then I saw this big female over here, and so I presented to her. Again, you kind of see where I dropped it right in and intercepted her on her way past the little brush right there. It's all still drag and drop, but it's a little bit different than a tailing fish, where a lot of times with tailors you have a stationary target. It's a little bit easier to drop it in on a tailor than it is on a cruiser, but cruisers are going to typically be easier to kind of pick up. They're going to catch the fly as it's coming down, but a lot of times it's easier to see that eat. They're in clearer water a lot of times because they're moving. A lot of these clouds that you'll see here, these are all caused by the carp digging and eating in the water here. So when you are intercepting cruisers, a lot of times it is a little bit clearer. So I don't know, it's a lot of fun here. Typical long leader for me. On these short shots like this, it's probably better to have shorter leader, but I like to be set up for longer leader regardless, and I feel like I can still control my line well enough. Even though it is more difficult with the long leader on these short shots, I still think I can overcome that, both with the cast and with managing the drag before the drop. I'm sure it costs me the occasional fish having the longer leader on these shorter shots, but again, I feel like being able to take the longer shots more than makes up for it for me. On a day like this, while I definitely got some shorter shots, I also had to take some longer shots. And that's pretty typical for cruising days when you're not seeing a lot of tailors. Again, really no tailors at this time. They're all cruising, they're all hunting. And as the year goes on, there'll definitely be more tailors. I'll have to target more muddy water to catch those tailors, because they'll make it pretty rough. But right now, a lot of cruisers, and surprisingly a lot of smaller fish. Maybe more small fish than I've ever seen. I didn't catch very many of them. I was more targeting the larger ones, and in some ways the smaller ones are harder anyway. They're just more wary. You can see the two little smaller ones there that spooked off when I cast that out to the larger one, and then there were some smaller ones back behind it. Most of the fish I caught on this particular outing were over 10 pounds. That's pretty typical for this area. It's an incredible carp fishery. Still probably one of the best in the country. Size-wise, it's not as big as what you'll see in, on the Columbia, on the, Lake Michigan, maybe up on Blackfoot Reservoir in Idaho. So those are some of the real trophy areas. But, I do catch 20-pounders out here. And a lot of really big, healthy fish, and a lot of really great fights at this location. So again, cruisers, no real tailors. Intercept this one coming in here, drag and drop, intercept it as it's coming through. Again, it's a timing thing on all these fish. I want that fly. You can actually see I missed that on the set there, and then I re-put it in there. And this was one of my first, this is really my first outing of the year. I was definitely not waiting long enough. You want to let the carp eat it and actually fully eat it. So a lot of times when a carp comes up, you'll see the mouth open, and that's that first suck where they're trying to suck that fly in. And especially if a little bit of tension on the line, it's not going to go all the way into their mouth. And even it's still connected to a line, so there's drag on the line. So even when they suck it and we don't have tension on the line, sometimes it still doesn't get all the way in there. So you'll usually see them suck it again. And then they kind of pinch down on the fly. They'll blow the rest of the crap, the mud, out, and then they kind of taste the fly, and then they spit it out. So we usually have a little bit of time, as long as they don't feel the line, where they will hold it in their mouth. So it's best to give them just a little bit of a wait before I set the hook. Again, first time of the year for me out there, and I definitely was not on point. I messed up some casts, I messed up some sets, but that's part of the game. It's still a lot of fun, and I still ended up catching a lot of fish and had just a fantastic day. Unfortunately, this particular body of water really is only good for a short period in the spring. After that, it gets so overgrown with moss and weeds that it's really unfishable. But during this period, like I said, this to me is still one of the best fisheries in the United States for carp, and just some incredible wild fish. Good sizes, not giants, but good sizes. But the best is that the water is relatively clear, and it's a lot of sight fishing. This place feels an awful lot like fishing for redfish, although in a lot of ways this is again more clear than a lot of places you even fish for redfish. So yeah, great big female there, pretty typical of the area. A lot of fun. Appreciate it, guys, and I will work on getting some more content out soon. Thanks.